The ABA call this a disaster. Ag Force say it's encouraging. So we've had an enormous amount of correspondence between the government and the ABA over the last 6 years I've been involved, and certainly previous to that. So this is a brief of Tony Burke's, this is his response to the ABA's complaints about the MLA and its voting system. So what he said was the MLA's voting system is based on the number of votes cast, not the number of individuals who participate. I understand MLA has provided you with a copy of the number of votes cast. I note that you have made allegations of corruption in relation to a levy voting process. I suggest you raise this matter with the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. So that's what happens. With this structure, which is both a statutory government marketing authority and a company limited by guarantee, the Minister passes the complaints to ASIC. Then when we write to ASIC, it says, no, this is funded through government taxes, and passes it back to the Minister. So the bureaucrats who thought up this structure were very smart men, and they knew how to baffle and keep democracy out of the industry. So I'll give you an example of how there's a lot of legislation passed on to us, how a lack of democracy and this system. How this system can bring in force something like NLIS on us, okay? So there's been a lot of talk about the costs of NLIS. ABA is $37.28 per head. Of the 13.5 million cattle sold every year in Australia, that comes out at $499 million per year. So I call it a $500 million white elephant, a blight on the industry. But I'll just put down the basic costs of NLIS for you, which no one can ever argue against. 87 million tags now registered on the database. 87 times $3.70 is $322 million. 13.4 million cattle transaction by $1.50 reading charge over 5 years, 100.5 million. Federal government spent 34 million. The coalition put 20 million in. Tony Burke last year put another 14 million in. New South Wales government, 5.4 million. Queensland government, 4 million. Victorian government, 4 million. West Australia, South Australia, 4 million total. So the basic costs of NLIS, which no one, that's the reading charges and the tag cost plus taxpayer funds, is $473.9 million. It's absurd, and it doesn't work. The audit we did into NLIS, the ABA, shows 22% of cattle with white tags have lost their whole of life traceability on the database, including orange tags. The figure goes to 34.5%. Let's try to get this. Yep. Okay. So this is how this system, although most producers didn't want NLIS, this system made sure it went through. So NLIS was introduced against cattle producer consensus. ABA meetings, over 3,000 cattle producers attended, all against NLIS. Let's try to get this. It's not coming up. Anyway. Okay, well I can keep going. So I had put a letter ad in the land newspaper. 1,877 producers were against NLIS, only 22 for it. Had a vote in the sale yards in Varel, 88 against it, 1 in favour. Some more ABA mates had a similar vote at the Gundah sale yards, 77 against NLIS, only 2 for it, but it still came in. And the amazing thing, I don't know if you can see that properly, but that is the trademark details for NLIS. So every time you buy a tag put in a cow's ear, you'll see the NLIS trademark logo. That is owned by MLA. So they have a subsidiary company called NLIS Proprietary Limited. So you cannot put a tag in a cow's ear and make it recognised by legally without having the analysed logo on it. So the MLA even owns that. So this is an interesting graph. So we've had, this industry is in crisis, but it's really interesting to put, Julian Cribb was talking about world problems in agriculture. Let's look about as how Australian producers are situated around the world. These categories are about 2 years old, but you'll see the red line, which is Australia. So there's, we did a survey, or Irish Farm Journal, which we picked up the information on, did a survey of 10 major agricultural beef producing consuming countries. Australia has the second lowest cattle prices in the world. Argentina, this is 2 years ago, were at $2. That's the lowest, and their government stops the export of beef at times to keep beef priced down to their consumers. Australia was 9th out of 10. So at the moment, we're getting, well, 2 years ago, we're getting $2.83 a kilo Australia, Brazil $3.18, USA $3.54, etc., etc. We're at the bottom of the heap. And this is important. This is what the effect of the industry structure has had on the industry. Cattle producers' back pockets mainly. So the supermarkets get 64%. They have 7 days ownership of the cattle. Processors get 7%. Their ownership on average is 7 days. Producers get 29% of the consumer dollar. And our ownership of the beast is about 1,000 days. So Australian beef prices. So I'm just going to compare, I'm just going on to the BSE section at the moment because this is so vitally important that we stop this beef coming in. So I'll just tell you why it's going to come in and how the prices compare with our biggest competitor and the biggest threat for importation of beef, the USA. So Australian rump equals US sirloin, it's a similar cut, different name. So Coles sell rump at $21 per kilogram. Woolworths, $24 per kilogram. The average price is $23 per kilogram. USA beef prices. US graded sirloin, $14.41 per kilogram. It's $5.70 per pound US. Ungraded sirloin, which is the comparison we'll use because our sirloin's ungraded here, $12 per kilogram. Okay, Australia versus USA retail prices of beef. So Australian rump, remember it's the same as sirloin, same name, different cut. So in the USA, you're looking at $12 per kilogram. That's what consumers pay over there. In Australia, $23 per kilogram. Australia versus USA retail beef prices. So let's do, I've been criticised on the sirloin, let's do lean ground meat, mince, that's $9 a kilogram in America. $14.40 per kilogram. So Australian workers' family pay twice as much for our product as we do. Australian versus USA cattle prices, live weight, this is current, $2.89 per kilogram. Live weight, this is a feeder steer. In Australia, it's $1.90 per kilogram live weight at best. US farmers get 35% more for their cattle than Australian farmers do. So the cost of cattle, here's a map of the world. So in the United States, you've got to remember the cow, $2.89 per kilogram. In Australia, you're looking at $1.90 per kilogram. So I'll just do a quick farm to retail spread. So this is how it's increased over the time. More and more the profit goes into the supermarkets. So between 2000 and 2009, if I can get this thing to go a bit quicker, I'll be right. There has been a 53% increase in the retail price of beef. There has been no increase in the price of domestic class cattle. None of these retail price increases can be attributed to the cost of livestock. None of this increase can be attributed to the cost of processing. Virtually 100% increase in the retail price of beef is being captured by the retailer in this country, namely Coles and Woolworths. So all the money you're spending on MLA levies is being captured by Coles and Woolworths. What this decision means to you, the cattle producer. I can click this a bit. Doesn't seem to be responding. 10% of beef consumption will be imported beef, so if they allow BSE beef in, that's what John Matthews said at the second Senate inquiry. He based his evaluations on 10% of imported beef. So 10% is equivalent to 50,000 tonnes. So importing 50,000 tonnes of boneless beef, the equivalent of 357,000 cattle, 200 kilogram carcass weight. Imports will not reduce retail price. It will put enormous pressure on the carcass beef trade. Domestic processors, retailers use carcass beef. Carcass beef is perishable compared to vacuum packed beef. So basically, if they import beef from BSE affected countries, we're going to end up the same as the pork industry. Last Christmas, 67% of all processed pork sales were from overseas pigs. And the same will happen here, because we cannot compete with subsidised countries with lower labour costs than ours. Isn't this going through? Okay. I'll just try and get this clicking out. So the main reason why they're going to import this beef from BSE affected countries is because of the costs of imports. Okay, so here's a world map. Get these, could you just keep clicking this? Okay, this is what I want. Okay, so in America, you're looking at a cheaper priced article than in Australia, and it costs 58 cents a kilogram to get it here. So, of course, there's someone going to make money out of it, and guess who it's going to be? It's going to be the traders, not the producers. Look, it's not quite, yeah. So basically, the story I'm going to leave you with, because I've run out of time, is that there's money to be made and someone is going to make it. We've been down to 3 Senate inquiries so far. The ABA went against RMAC. We have a budget of $130,000, $140,000 against an industry which is worth $200 million, and we've won. But it's only delayed. We need your help to back the ABA to stop beef imports permanently from BSE affected countries into this country. So take a journal home, there's a membership form up the back. Join us. We are 1 vote per member, not like the MLA where your vote is based on the amount of cattle you produce. Thanks very much.